Hey guys, it's Ricky here. So, today I want to be talking about talents, and sometimes with a lot of classes, it's hard to get around the talents of what you should run in raids, dungeon, and PvP, as it could be different. And Holy Paladin is one of those cases where the raid, dungeon, and PvP talents are completely different. And what I like actually about Holy Paladins is that it's quite unique as to that all of its talents will be used. You will use all of the talents for different situations. Well, most of them. And there's so many situations where you can play around with this, seeing as Holy Paladins are very, very versatile in different situations. So I'm going to go over them with you, and we're going to take a look as to see which talents are the best optimal situation. There's a lot of generalization here. There are examples where certain talents will be more useful, but I want to kind of create a baseline for you. And then after that, you can also figure it out yourself which ones you like running more. Because at the end of the day, it needs to suit your playstyle. And what I'm going to show you is what's going to benefit you mostly in terms of correct playing, of making sure you go through your progressions. And on top of that, I can also tell you some tactics you can do to cheese out and increase your heals per second. That's here. If you look at the bottom right, you can see different HPS. So here, for example, it's one of my guildie Hades did 243,000 heals per second on average on this fight. It's kind of like the healing equivalent to DPS, where DPS, for example, does, I don't know, 330 DPS. So then that just shows how effective or how much you are healing. But just a general tip, I don't recommend you to use this as a way to judge whether you're a good healer or not, and you shouldn't be competing on HPS. But some of you would like to increase your ego and show off to your friends, so I'll show you how to do that as well. So, let's start with the first row of talents, which you unlock at level 15. Here you get three choices, and they are three good choices. Here you have Bestow Faith, which infuses a friendly target with faith for 5 seconds, and it heals them for a set amount at the end. So it is a slow cast, you have to use this in advance. It's well, I mean, it's instant cast, but the effect takes into account 5 seconds later. What I recommend you do is for rating purposes, I would always choose Bestow Faith. Now, the reason for this is because your tanks will consistently take damage. So if you put Bestow Faith onto your tanks, you're going to see big heals using this, and it's super mana efficient. And that's very important in raids. Now, let's take a look at Light's Hammer. This is basically an AoE damage dealer, but it also heals your allies. It heals up to 6 allies. Now, I hardly ever see this being used. It can be used to cheese out really high HPS when you go to a mythic raid, for example, against Ursoc, and you really want to heal as many people as you can. That takes a lot of AoE damage. That's the number one key here. If the raid takes a lot of AoE damage and you just want to spam as much heal as you can, take this. But Bestow Faith is the most efficient per mana, so that's still your optimum choice here. Crusader's Might is unique. It kind of gives you the possibility to play a lot like a Shokadin. So here your Crusader's Might will reduce the cooldown of your Holy Shock and Light of Dawn by 1.5 seconds. That is quite a bit. So if we see here, your Holy Shock should have about 8.42 seconds, and that would decrease it down to about 6 seconds. And for your Light of Dawn, it decreases it to about 9.9 seconds, so about 10 seconds. So in this case, Crusader Might is actually pretty effective, and that's gonna be really useful in dungeons where you're gonna be in melee range. You're gonna put out some DPS as a healer while healing at the same time. And it's also an alternative way to play a Holy Paladin. It's great for world PvE if you're doing quests because you will be soloing it most of the times. and this will allow you to pull off those holy shocks more often. You can heal more often with holy shocks or do more damage. And I've seen some pallies pull off 300k DPS as a holy paladin, so that's definitely something to keep an eye out for. For PvP, I would use Crusader's Might. For Mythic Plus, I would use Crusader's Might because in PvP you need to use it for the damage as well as fast healing. So instant cast is your best friend. And with Avengers Crusade, your honor talent. So here, you heal for every damage you do when you have your wings up. So that means the more Holy Shock you do as damage, the more Crusader strikes you pull off, the more you heal your targets while your wings are up. So it synergizes really well with that. So that's quite in depth of the first row. Now, the second row, this is a very easy one. Unbreakable Spirit, I mean, I never really use this. To me, it's okay. So it reduces the cooldown by 30% here, but you also have some other really good talents. And honestly, I've never am in a situation where that 30% on Divine Shield, Lay of Hands, made a difference. So let's take a look at the other two because I never picked this to be honest, but you could if you want. Cavalier, Divine Steed now has two charges. This is super useful in PvP, and I use it mainly in PvP because this allows me to escape a lot of DPS that tries to stick to me and combo CC me and so on. And it's very important to get as much movement as you can. Now, Rule of Law is generally my go-to PvE talent here because it increases the range of your heals and reach of mastery by 50%. And I think anyone who has played Holy Paladin for a while knows that Rule of Law does not have the best range you can get. Holy Paladin does not have the best range in the game. And Rule of Law helps Holy Paladins to gather some distance, use its mastery, which is heavily gathered in our gear, and it really increases your output at the end. So at the end of the day, Rule of Law really really useful. I highly recommend this for PvE. Cavalier, use that for PvP. Now this one doesn't matter that much. In raiding, makes zero difference. But in PvP, you can choose Repentance. But the problem about this, it works like a sap, but it also does damage over time to the person. The stun is not that long, but it also has a really low cooldown, so you can use it more often. Only use this if you need more CC in your comp, but you should have a second person for CCing, and you should be more focused on doing damage and healing. So I don't recommend this that much, but there are situations in arenas where you can use this. Fist of Justice is my go-to talent for PvP. The reason for this is that the judgment reduces the remaining cooldown of your Hammer of Justice by 10%. I mean, if you see here, Hammer of Justice has quite a long cooldown, and any reduction of that, so I can use it multiple times in my arenas, is super useful. And Hammer of Justice is one of the best stuns you can get. It lasts for 6 seconds, and it's one of those stuns that you will force Trinket in the beginning if you use it. If not, it also, stuns them for 6 seconds, so that's pretty good. Lastly, Blinding Light. Here, Blinding Light is really good for PvE content, like in Mythic Plus. Not really useful in raids. None of these three matter that much in raids, honestly. But in Mythic Plus dungeons, when you use Blinding Light, you can increase your DPS output with this. I guess in PvP, you also will use this for the dazzle effect. For example, if a lot of them are stacking onto you, but the 1.5 minute cooldown is way too high to justify this, in my opinion. So I would stick with Blinding Light for Mythic Plus, Fist of Justice, or Repentance for PvP. So now we're gonna get to look at the mid talent section. This is the most argued area of Holy Paladins because all three are good. You have Aura Mercy, Aura Sacrifice, Devotion Aura. Let's get Devotion Aura out of the way first. Devotion Aura always on higher level Mythic Plus. By that I mean, I don't know, 8 Mythic plus 8, Mythic plus 9, Mythic plus 10, and so on, up to 15. Because that flat out reduction in damage will benefit you a lot more in higher levels. Because their damage is so much higher, you're actually scaling it back down to a lower Mythic plus level damage output. So that is super, super useful. And in PvP, because you're only with either 2 or 3 people in arena, this 20% split is not that bad. It's not split so much. Say in a 2 arena, both of you take 10% reduced damage without Aura of Mastery. So that's super powerful. So keep that in mind. This is a go-to for Mythic and for Arena. Aura of Sacrifice, I'll get to that. Aura of Mercy is my go-to raiding talent for auras because the heals it does is immense. And with Aura Mastery, you can do so much healing and your HPS will go up so hard. I highly, highly recommend this talent. Now, Aura of Sacrifice, this is one of those things that you will use to cheese the HPS meters. It is the best healing aura if you use it all at the correct timing for heals per second, but it will also drain your mana the most. I'll explain why later. To explain Aura Sacrifice, really, I will need to go over the next two talents and we'll explain why Aura of Sacrifice does so much HPS with Aura of Mastery. So here you have Divine Purpose. You rarely see this used, but actually, some playstyles are starting to incorporate Divine Purpose. It's quite useful because essentially you have a chance to get a free Light of Dawn and Holy Shock. That is insane. No cooldown, and you can cast it for free. It's going to increase your HPS quite a bit, but at the same time, the other two talents are also quite strong. Here, Divine Purpose is only good in really rare scenarios. For example, when you do Mythic Helia, where you're gonna struggle with mana, Divine Purpose is definitely gonna help you a lot. And the free Light of Dawn is gonna do so much. I've seen people have Light of Dawn as their primary healing source. So just keep that in mind, guys. If you're struggling with mana, go for this. Holy Avenger is really useful. It increases your healing by 30% from Holy Shock, and also your haste goes up by 30%. I use this mainly if there are a lot of situations where I need to heal really fast a lot. So that's definitely useful. And it's also very well, it can be very mana costly because your haste goes up, so it's easier to spam a lot more heals, which then causes you to use a lot more mana. But if, say, there's a mechanic where people need to be healed a lot really fast, this will help you with that. I also use this mainly in Mythic Plus because, well, I'll bring you to Holy Prism now. There's Holy Prism, which targets a certain amount of people and they get healed by that much. I find it rarely bounces off into allies. Most of the times it just converts into damage, and the more mobs you have, the more it converts into damage. In a raid scenario, your heal output is still not that high with this. This is, I guess, good in some heavy AoE situations. So think of Ursoc when he charges. Everyone goes low. You use this, you're gonna hit a lot of people for a lot of heals. And if there are very little amount of ads, this is very useful. But in Mythic Plus, there's so many ads, you have no control over the healing. Sometimes it goes into ads. It's going to target the nearest units of the target. So, yeah, I highly don't recommend Holy Prism in Mythic Plus. Holy Avenger will be your stronger choice. But in raiding scenario, Holy Prism can be good. Holy Prism is very mana costly, I would say. So I would be careful with this. And now we go to the next row. And this row talent also synergizes with the talent row before. So Fervent Martyr, I never use. Never seen anyone use it. I don't know. To me, it's Light of the Martyr. I will talk about that in another video. I think Light of the Martyr is still the least efficient spells. It has its use, but it needs to be used in very, very strong moderation because your actual HPS will look good, but in reality, you're not benefiting your raid or party at all. So just ignore this for now. Now, Sanctified Wrath. Your Avenging Wrath lasts 25% longer and also reduces Holy Shock's cooldown by 50% for its duration. Usually, if I pick this, I would choose Holy Avenger because Sanctified Wrath is, let's see, it's passive, so you don't spend more mana. It's the same mana as your. Okay, your Avenging Wrath doesn't even cost mana. So, yeah, it's very mana efficient and gives you more space to use Holy Avenger. And on top of that, this can also go with your Holy Avenger. So you have 50% cooldown reduction on Holy Shock, and Holy Avenger increases your shock healing by 30%. You combine these two, you can imagine the sort of nuke you're gonna get. It's insane. On top of that, uh, Sanctified Wrath makes your Avenging Wrath last 25% longer. So that would be quite a long time. Just give me a moment here. So it already lasts for. Let me just move this. I don't know if this is the correct amount. Okay, yeah. So it lasts 20 seconds, but this gives you 5 extra seconds, guys. It's quite a lot of duration, and you're gonna pull off high HPS through this. But also, I want to bring your attention to Judgment of Light. Now, Judgment of Light doesn't have much synergy with Holy Avenger. Judgment of Light does require you to focus more on the boss in raid scenarios. So here you're going to. Okay, I just want to explain that Judgment of Light is super good in raid only. You do not use this in Mythic Plus. Why? Because it has 40 successful attacks heal. So you need quite a lot of people to use as much stack of this before your judgment goes off cooldown and you can use it again. You want it all to be consumed to pull off the maximum HPS through it. That is why Judgment of Light is a raid scenario. And if you do pick Judgment of Light, it does also synergize really well with Holy Prism. Because Holy Prism is already going to target the boss. When you target the boss with Holy Prism, it's going to AoE heal your allies by default. That's how Holy Prism targets. And these two together will pull off some insane HPS. So these two are kind of like a bundle. Sanctified Wrath and Holy Avenger are a bundle. You would not want to do this or this. This is not an optimal thing. For PvP, I go Holy Avenger. You need that haste. In PvP, haste is crucial. You're under so much pressure, so much CC. You need to pull off those heals fast as you can. But yeah, Holy Avenger and Sanctified Wrath go together. Holy Prism, Judgment Light. These two, I would use it only on raids. And in my current setup, I use this because right now my other healer, he's running this. And Judgment of Light doesn't stack. So for me, it doesn't make sense to go that. Why would I waste my Judgment of Light? So I'm going here to add the variety to the group. If you have two Holy Pallies, coordinate that. Okay, now to the last point. Beacons. Beacons, beacons, beacons. This is really, really simple. So, Beacon of Virtue is the highest HPS you're ever going to get in small bursts. And only use this in dungeons. Why, you may ask? Because the mana cost is insane. It's an insane amount for such a short duration. It's only 8 seconds and it's 33,000 mana. It's really demanding. And in a raid scenario, it's not sustainable. You're gonna suffer and you're gonna run out of mana so fast. Now, Beacon of the Lightbringer is really useful if the tanks are swapping. because you get a much higher increase of heal with only one beacon if you can effectively swap your beacons during the raid. I don't personally like Beacon of the Lightbringer that much because I find that Beacon of Faith has overall a higher HPS. You're going to perform much higher on your Beacon of Faith. Let's see if I can get an example. So, I mean, this is just one of the. This is from Helia. We wiped, so we didn't finish it. But Beacon of Light here, you see, is doing the most amount of heal. This is not possible with Beacon of Lightbringer. If your focus is to increase HPS, Beacon of Faith is probably the easiest one to use, and it's the most friendly. When I was using Beacon of Lightbringer, you would see my Beacon of Light only do about 9% instead of 15%. So definitely keep an eye out for Beacon of Faith. Put it on both of your tanks since most raids now require double tanks anyways. So this is my go-to raid, but you can also run Beacon of the Lightbringer, but it requires you to be really good at swapping your beacons. And Beacon of Virtue is the only beacon you should run in dungeons. For PvP, go Beacon of the Lightbringer and switch accordingly. In 2v2, Beacon of Lightbringer is easy to switch around. In 3v3, just switch between two targets, focus on the two that they will be focusing on. Now, last part to this long guide. Aura of Sacrifice. I talked about its synergy and how it can be really, really, really good, and you can pull off some insane numbers. So what happens when you use Aura of Mastery on Aura of Sacrifice is that everyone you heal, sorry, every time you heal a target, 15% of all that heal that reaches that target goes to your whole group, your whole raid members. So what happens is you want to use this, and that lasts for about, let's see here, for 8 seconds. So for 8 seconds, you're going to have 15% healing per raid member. If you have 20 raid members, just imagine the numbers you're going to be pulling off there. It's going to be insane. Just like 20 people times 15% of on each people. You're going to get ridiculous numbers. Pair that with Holy Avenger and Sanctified Wrath, you can be pulling up to 1 million heals with Holy Shock or Flash of Light. Now let's take a million into consideration. A million and say 15% of that, that's 150k in one spell. Now 150,000 times 20 is 30 million. I think I did the numbers right there. Hold on. No, sorry, 3 million. So 3 million effective healing there. That's a one spell, right? Now imagine if you use multiple spells. I would say with that you can do Holy Shock, Light of Dawn, and then Flash of Light twice. And you've about used up your Aura Sacrifice Mastery there. J- the numbers are just absurd. It's definitely your highest HPS. But the downside of this, you are forced to use all your cooldowns at once. So this is good for fights with long burst long cooldown burst mechanics. Like Cenarius has the spawns every now and then that would do insane amount of damage, like the Wisp. And then you use that, you're gonna see crazy HPS. And then there's gonna be a long duration of just steady damage. And then one big burst damage after 3 minutes, and then you use it again. So in these situations, Aura of Sacrifice is a monster. Or if you're just in farm mode, Aura of Sacrifice is still a monster. Use that, you're gonna see high HPS. Aura of Mercy, though, is your safer pick. If you're still progressing and you're not really focused on showing off your heal potential, go Aura of Mercy. Do your raid a favor. Make it a consistent amount, not some crazy numbers you're just trying to fill. Alright, guys. So that is all. I'm gonna be releasing all of my heroic Emerald Nightmare videos soon. I also have the Trial of Valor normal runs that I did with my guild last night. That's gonna go up later. And I'm already gonna start working on mythics. So I'm gonna do Mythic Emerald Nightmare. I wanna start posting that content and get it completed. Hopefully we'll be able to complete Nithendra early next week. that's in our schedule. We need to get that down, or we might just focus on Helia. Right now, we're just finishing up Helia normal before we can go in heroic Trial of Valor. We just started it last night. But yeah, if you like my content, feel free to subscribe. Also, hit that like button. And if you have any questions or suggestions, tips, hit the comment section below. And we'll just have a discussion, guys. Other than that, peace out. Thank you for watching.